If you like Neville Goddard and you like manifesting instantly, then this is going to be the video for you. I wanted to take some time and actually make a video talking about how Neville Goddard always mentions that you don't actually have to experience time in manifestation, which is why you can see people manifest instantly. But I'm also going to talk about why we might not be seeing our manifestation happen instantly and why that's still okay. Because truly, you already have everything you could ever want alive within you, but understanding this subject is going to help you bring that alive in your reality today. And I also wanted to make this video because sometimes the thought of manifesting instantly feels impossible. So when you see titles of my videos that are like, you're already with your specific person, it's already happening, this is all Neville Goddard based and law of assumption based. But again, I just wanted to make sure everyone knew their power because you are just moments away from your manifestation. So here's the first quote by Neville Goddard that I want to talk about that is going to help us not only with the manifestation of our specific person, but the manifestation of literally everything. And so the first quote Neville Goddard wrote in The Law and the Promise: the interval of time between the imaginal act and its fulfillment is the length of time it takes man to move from one state of consciousness to the other. Basically stating that the only reason we're experiencing time is actually because we're in one state of consciousness and moving into another state of consciousness. So in the example of manifesting a specific person, it would be like we are moving from the state of being single or not being with our specific person to the state of being together. And so theoretically, what he's implying here, because he never uses the word instantaneous, but in this quote is the implication that then if you were to just assume the state or change your state of consciousness, everything around you would change miraculously. Now, one thing I will say with Neville Goddard, he does always talk about the bridge of events. So it would be just a bridge of events that happens instantaneously. Meaning, and you've kind of seen the success stories on my channel before, or in other videos or with other coaches, in which their specific person texts them randomly or calls them randomly, and then gives them some sort of excuse or reason why. That would be the bridge of events. The bridge of events is going to flow to you in a way that's logical, in a way that makes sense, in a way that your mind is going to understand. And don't worry, I'll give you techniques or a couple techniques at the end of the video of how to actually transfer from one state of consciousness into another, because really it seems and sounds very simple, but sometimes it isn't as simple as we think it can be because of other things happening in our reality. And then this is the reason why also that if you don't manifest instantly, there's no problem with that. Sometimes manifesting instantly is not fun, right? It's not exciting. It's not adventurous. If you think of the path from where you are to your specific person, you would say sometimes to skip that whole path or all the dates and the fun that you can have with your specific person and jump right to marriage, sometimes that's not actually what you want to do. Or maybe you imagine that you're married and then you go on the dates. That could be a good reason why. But remember, if we're manifesting and it's not happening now or not happening instantaneously, that's okay. It could actually be a portion of our mind that wants it to take a little more time than normal, specifically because it's more fun. Because I would ask yourself that question, because a part of instantaneous manifestation is this idea of, do I really want it to happen instantly? Because your mind and your subconscious will actually block you from doing anything that is not, or not that it's not fun, but it will stop anything that increases fear. So if this is something that you really don't want, there's no use in forcing it or feeling bad that it doesn't happen, because then technically our subconscious mind doesn't want it to occur, but it always is in relation to consciousness. So the next quote from Neville Goddard is from The Feeling is a Secret, in which he wrote, imagination and faith are the secrets of creation. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the shortcut to everything. And I like that he mentions shortcut. So maybe not instantaneously, but the word shortcut, because when he mentions the wish fulfilled being that speed or quick route there, I could not agree more. Because the reason he mentions shortcut is because if you're in a state in your reality, everything is just going to continuously show up in the way that that state makes sense to you. And so if you feel like it's going to take a while to manifest your specific person, it's going to take a while, right? And if we're not in the wish fulfilled, or we not induce something that changes our state, we'll kind of be doomed to that state until something happens and we move out of it. Meaning if we're feeling single, we're kind of doomed to the amount of time that we feel it's going to take in order to be with our specific person, which technically would be until we find a time to actually change our sense of consciousness. But the state of the wish fulfilled is the shortcut. But again, I would always go back to that original idea that the fulfillment is the length of time it takes man to move from one state of consciousness to the other. That's it. The next quote is from the Power of Awareness, in which Neville Goddard wrote, "Events happen because you and I have consented to them. They are not imposed upon us." So if we look around in our reality, taking that very seriously, everything is a choice. Everything outside of you, this video that you're watching, your work, your career, the placement of objects in your house, everything has been chosen by you and is not forced upon you. And then you would say, okay, so if we make that choice through our consciousness, then the same thing is happening with our specific person. It's not being imposed. Time is not being imposed. It's actually something we are consenting to. And then the only difference is going to be the state in which we apply it or embody at any given time. I also like this quote because it really instills a sense of power that you can have in your reality, and showing that literally everything is just like a dream. Kind of like, I believe it's a quote by Edgar Allan Poe of, "All we've seen is but a dream within a dream," kind of like that. Or I sometimes like to think of it, if you've seen the movie The Matrix, it's kind of like your reality is like, not like a video game, but it's not real. Like I feel like the themes in those two ideas are very good at understanding a reality is not this thing that's being forced upon you. There's actually nothing outside of you that's actually occurring or making anything happen. It's all a result of our own assumptions and our own thoughts. And then lastly, a quote from Awakened Imagination, in which Neville wrote, "You do not make it real. It is real the moment you imagine it." Basically discussing the instantaneous transition of how our imagination is reality. And there's actually a way in which you imagine it in such a state, or he would refer to that as like a state akin to sleep. But talking about this imagination being instantaneously or immediately real is the theme of what we're talking about. Because he would actually argue, if Neville could speak to us right now, he would say your imagination is real. It is truer than reality. And now I wouldn't necessarily quote that as the instantaneous manifestation, meaning if everything can happen instantaneously, it's not just within your imagination that it's going to occur, because as you begin to switch, if everything is not imposed upon you and your choice, then your imagination will have an effect in the 3D reality just in the same way as a mirror. And so, but we need to really give more stock to our imagination, because that's actually what I would say is sometimes the only thing in between someone manifesting faster than they want or slower than they want, is this idea that our imagination is somehow separate from our reality, or your imagination isn't real, or your imagination isn't true, right? All of these ideas just work against us, but that's not true. Your imagination is more true than reality, or at least that's what Neville Goddard would say. And as a reminder, I just want to show you a cool success story. I actually put it in a video I posted yesterday, but I felt like that video of instantaneous manifestation wasn't as helpful as it could be, and that's why I wanted to make this video. But this person just made a comment of, "I'm not joking, my specific person texted me while watching this video." And so, not something to endorse my videos, I just wanted to show that having the imaginative act, or having something that puts you into the state, whether it's my video, whether it's another coach's video, whether it's your friend, whether it's your family, right? Someone who makes you feel in that wish fulfilled state, or induces the belief that you can create the outcome you want, that can create instantaneous change. And yes, you would say, well, a text isn't the end state, but normally our mind has a less degree of refusal towards a text message or a phone call or a date or something like that than your end state, which might be marriage. But remember, they're the same thing, right? The bridge of events, to go back to that original, I love the first quote. That's why I made it my first quote. "The fulfillment is the length of time it takes man to move from one state of consciousness to another." So in this case, the state of being texted probably isn't that hard to move into the state of consciousness of. And so that's how we want to react and act in the same way. And you're going to get the same exact results. And so now for the couple of techniques that I think are going to put you into the state or challenge your current sense of consciousness, because that's what it's all about, right? We just want to change our consciousness. Again, if that's all related to the sense of time, but I always want you to know, just manifesting instantly isn't the only way to do it, and isn't the quote unquote best way to do it. Every manifestation is just as true as another, and it's all about just crossing into the consciousness. So I would actually argue every manifestation is instantaneous because it's all just crossing that threshold, and we're kind of just working ourselves up to it along the way. And so the first thing that you can do is pick or create like a state switch object or a state switch button. So you're going to choose maybe a room. I mean, a room isn't probably your best choice, but a room, a bracelet, a rock, a ring, a shirt, a hat, something that as you wear that, you are going to consistently assume the state. And I want you to, at first, before you really go into it, we just need to anchor our mind or our state to this thing. And so before you do anything, I want you to feel into the state of already having what you want, and then put the object on you. So let's say it's a ring, because that's usually and sometimes the easiest way, or a bracelet or something. You would go into your imaginal act, and then you would imagine feeling as if you and your specific person were already together. And as soon as you did that, you would put the object on. And that's something called anchoring. So the reason this works is when you have a sensation that's related to an emotion, you will get the same emotion based on the same state. So the feeling of putting the ring on will actually be related to you feeling as if you're already with your specific person. And thus, every time you put the ring on, you are going to immediately induce that state. And anchoring always works. So you can always test it. So after trying this out a couple times with a ring or a bracelet or a hat or something, try it out and see how you feel. You should be immediately induced into the state automatically because your mind will relate those sensations to all the feelings you were thinking and then immediately assume the state. And then you can use this object throughout the day. You can wear it all day, every day, and you will embody the state so much longer than you might have before. As well as this, we want us to make our state of consciousness very effortless or natural. And so what we want to do is ask ourselves a simple question, because consciousness is usually related to being, and that's how we act in our reality. So you want to ask yourself, if this were already done, what would I do in the next 30 seconds? Okay, if this were already done, what would I do in the next 30 seconds? And we are challenging our concept of time, but we're also starting to be that individual. We're starting to act and feel as if, because it is one thing. Now, Neville Goddard would argue with us that it is one thing to imagine something, but it does have a different aspect to imagine it and then walk as if. But that's exactly what Neville Goddard did. Remember his first class manifestation trip to Barbados. He would imagine it before bed, but then he would also walk the streets of New York as if they were Barbados. And so that's, I feel like, Neville Goddard's secret and his dual propensity. I don't know if propensity is the right word. Someone give me the definition of propensity. But those two combined are going to be amazing. And so that's, again, anchoring yourself to that thing. So an object or something, or maybe it's your glasses or something that you put on, and you always are in the state, almost like you're a superhero, almost like Superman or Superwoman. I don't think Superwoman or Supergirl has glasses that she puts on. Maybe not. I don't really know a lot about Marvel or DC. All the DC fans got mad right there. But you're just imagining yourself as a superhero. So maybe you're in your like alternate ego or your alternate identity, or you're disguised, right? But you are that state. But then also aligning that with the idea of like, what would you do? Right? And it's not a physical action of forcing it. So it's not like, how could I make this happen? It's what would I do if this were already occurring? And there's a huge difference in that. So again, not making it happen, but what would I do if this were already occurring? And then if it's something that you can act on, perfect. If it's not, if you're like, oh, I'd text my specific person or call them, take out your phone and pretend to call them, right? It's the same exact thing. You'll get your mind and body in a perfect relationship with manifesting for the end. If you did have any questions on this, make sure to comment them down below. As well as this, remember, you can always reach out to me on my website for a personal message or something that you didn't want to post publicly, or a fun success story. I'm always down to cheer you on at kyleaugustcoaching.com. And if you know that you walk by faith and not by sight, meaning you are the creative factor in your reality, go ahead and leave a thumbs up on this video if you want. And then don't forget to subscribe. But as always, a huge shout out to all my subscribers, huge shout out to all my members. And I can't wait to see you in my next video tomorrow. And I can't wait to see how this idea or these quotes from Neville Goddard change your aspect or understanding of manifestation.